If you're at LTU, you're not someone that's just sitting in the background going through the motions. You're here because you want to be here. They're here because they want you to be here. And you're here because you are going to go somewhere and you're going to be at the top of whatever you do.
Instructors don't just put you out there and say, okay, go make it happen. They teach you how to ask the right questions. They teach you how to problem solve. They teach you how to be a true leader.
You have a bunch of group projects and things that you have to do in your classes, and so you'll know probably 90% of the people that you're going to be working with if you're very outgoing. And honestly, you meet a bunch of new people just in your class and you say, oh hey, I'm in this major too, and then you make new friends all the time, and everybody knows everybody.
We are small enough that we can live like a family, but we are large enough to expose students to many more opportunities. We are a team. There are no silos. This is one team.
When they leave, they really have a very consistent education, and they all feel that they are together. They have a brand. They are a Lawrence Tech graduate, and being a Lawrence Tech graduate brings a certain number of characteristics that make them very unique.
We have developed within our institution the ability to routinely put students under pressure to dialogue with folks who are different than themselves. I don't think that you can be a leader if you are not able to dialogue. You cannot have teamwork if you are unable to dialogue, and there's certainly no hope for unity if you're unable to dialogue.
Lawrence Technological University sits on 107 acres in Southfield, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. With nearly 4,500 students and over 400 full and part-time faculty, LTU is one of the largest independent colleges in the state, offering over 100 degree programs across 4 colleges. Lawrence Tech is one of the nation's best schools for engineering, architecture, science, and applied technology. Nearly 20 D2 level scholarship men's and women's sports are offered, with most competing in the NAIA. Dreams of competing at the collegiate level are realized, and Blue Devil pride now saturates the student body. A recent survey showed that nearly 88% of 2016 graduates had found employment or were starting their own businesses, going to graduate school, or into government service such as the Armed Services or the Peace Corps. Get ready for a walkthrough of some of the 84-year history of Lawrence Tech. You'll learn about the pioneers, the trailblazers, and hear journeys from the present. LTU alumni have always and will continue to change the world. Lawrence Tech was created to explore and expand the cutting edge. The 20th century may have seen more technological and scientific progress than all the other centuries combined since the dawn of civilization. In the 1930s, the Great Depression was a great wake-up call to Lawrence Tech founder and engineer Russell Lawrence. Henry Ford had created the automobile, and with it, the middle class. In a time booming with innovation and technology, Henry Ford's son Edsel Ford was convinced to lease a building inside the Model T assembly plant in Highland Park. Originally named Lawrence Institute of Technology, the school served as a way for working men to earn their engineering degrees at night. Lawrence Tech was founded on the principle that every person should have the opportunity for a college education. And what was true then is true now. A hands-on learning approach called theory and practice, taking abstract ideas into the real world to solve tomorrow's problems. Lawrence Technological University's reputation comes as much as what's being done now as it does from its storied past. With over 30,000 graduates over the past 84 years and an additional 40,000 former students, there is an endless list of prestigious alumni. One such grad is Jim Ryan. Born into a blue-collar family on the east side of Detroit, Jim grew up in the 40s and 50s with a passion for drawing comic books, street scenes, and animals. Fascinated with the idea of architecture and design, Jim took the 1-hour commute each way to attend downtown's Cass Technical High School. It had the electives he desired. Following graduation in the mid-50s, the architectural firms he aspired to work for would not hire him unless he went to college. Over on Woodward Avenue, there was a relatively new school directly behind the Ford factory.
It was, if I remember correctly, 5 levels, and the architectural class at that time was always on the 5th floor, the hottest floor of all of them. And so we suffered with windows open, had to close the windows when the trains came by. It was a unique environment, really, a testy environment, you might say. But I don't think we were focused on the environment. We were focused on what the instructor was talking about. These are kids that knew they weren't going to go to day school. They knew they weren't going to get their education any other way, so that it was highly important for them to listen to what was going on.
The new campus in Southfield opened up soon after Jim enrolled, so his commute intensified. Now married, working a job, taking classes in the Army Reserve, Jim Ryan almost didn't get through it. One semester, he received 4 failing grades.
I almost had a nervous breakdown is what was happening. And I got out of that. I started getting hives and all kinds of things to my body and just nervous, and finally swallowed my pride and said, you know, I'm going back. There's no way I'm going to stop. I'm never going to do that again. I flunked. I have to make up those classes. It's just going to extend my tenure here. And from that point on, I just went and took as much as I could take that fit into our program.
It took Jim 10 years to graduate. James P. Ryan received his bachelor's degree in 1966. He went on to own one of the nation's leading architectural firms that specialized in commercial and shopping center development. He has designs all over the world, many here in Michigan. His most highly acclaimed designs include the Somerset Collection in Troy and Auburn Hills Great Lakes Crossing. Life lessons learned at Lawrence Tech carried him a long way.
Stamina, dexterity, sincerity, honesty when you're talking to clients. I mean, all these instructors, when they were asked a question that might have led them off the track, they're saying, well, that's what we're talking about. What we're talking about, maybe you missed the point here, is getting onto it, being sincere about what you're talking about, not getting sidetracked.
Jim went on to hire many Lawrence Tech grads. He has been a part of the Alumni Association and a generous donor, including starting a scholarship, giving back to the university that believed in Jim Ryan. The Southfield campus opened in 1955, and campus life didn't change that much for about 40 years.
When I came, there were no sports, there was no student life. People would come to class and leave. There was, really, I think at the time we only had one housing unit, but the majority of students were all commuters, would come to class and leave, and there was not really the kind of engagement that we see today, both inside and outside of the classroom.
During the 1940s and 50s, sports were big at Lawrence Tech. And when the national news spoke of Blue Devil basketball, it wasn't Duke they were discussing. Huge dances followed each game and tens of thousands of fans showed up. The 1950-51 team was invited to participate in the era's leading national championship tournament, the NIT, held at New York City's Madison Square Garden. But sports soon went the way of 3D movies. They'd be gone for decades. All that changed in 2010. Lawrence Technological University wanted the campus to come alive, build school pride, and give students and alumni a chance to be able to stick around after classes. Athletics offered that up, and then some. Year after year, new sports being added. It's been a wild ride. Although Lawrence Tech had a distant history of athletics, they never had women's sports. Today, there are 9. One of the very first teams to take up residence in Riddler Fieldhouse 5 years ago? Volleyball. Josie Query is a senior captain. Like Jim Ryan, it was the architecture and engineering programs offered at Lawrence Tech which caught her eye back in her hometown of Midland, Michigan. Self-described as quiet but determined, her first love was basketball, but as a setter in volleyball, her skills attracted the attention of Larry Wyatt, Lawrence Tech's volleyball coach. She qualified for both academic and athletic scholarship money and would commit the next several years of her life to being a Blue Devil. The biggest challenge of being a student athlete is finding the time for both school and sports. Not to mention, you're on your own.
My parents were never too big on making sure I got everything done that it was expected, but not being at a house where someone was kind of constantly checking up on you, whether they said it out loud or not. So being your own accountable for yourself and trying to fit everything in while you're still around a bunch of kids that are your age and you want to have fun and get to have that social aspect of your life too.
There's an upper limit on capacity.
Josie's maintained a GPA above 3.5 and is also very active in the Greek life on campus. There are several fraternities and sororities at Lawrence Tech, and her other extended family, her volleyball family.
I have 3 younger sisters, so I'm used to being more of the mom figure or the babysitter, so And especially having a team of, some of these girls are my siblings' ages, so it's like funny that they're like my best friends too, and I'm willing to take care of whatever they need and be there if they need me.
An all-academic and NAIA Scholar athlete, Josie is on track for a Master's of Science in Architectural Engineering. LTU offers an advantage that literally no other university in the nation offers. Included in your undergraduate tuition, each student is offered a laptop loaded with software tailored just for you.
There's like thousands of dollars worth of software on there, and I use it all the time. Like the Revit program we use in studio all the time. I've used the Adobe Suites with Photoshop and Illustrator, and it's definitely invaluable. If I had to pay for that on my own, I wouldn't have it.
14 years ago, LTU became Michigan's first wireless campus and still has one of the largest wireless networks in the Midwest. A 2015 study from the prestigious Brookings Institution ranks Lawrence Technological University 5th in the country for providing the most value in preparing its graduates for well-paying occupations. Naturally, companies are craving this talent, and great internship opportunities are everywhere, including for Josie, who worked for a local company that does mechanical and engineering for buildings.
So I get to figure out like the heating and cooling of a building, like how much air you need to put through a room, which is interesting. You never really think of, but now that I go places, I see all that equipment. I'm like, oh, I work with this. Like, I wonder if it's doing its job or if this is what it's supposed to be doing or how to make it better.
The 1980s saw a boom of women entering the field of engineering. In fact, the number of degrees in engineering awarded to women in the U.S. increased by 45% between 1980 and 1994. Donna Bell graduated from Lawrence Tech with an engineering degree in 1989. She went on to collect 2 master's degrees and is working on her PhD from Wayne State in industrial systems and engineering. She's worked at Ford for 20 years and is currently a global product development manager. She also serves as president of the LTU Alumni Association. Although convinced that being an engineer was her calling, having women as both professors and as colleagues helped her along the way.
I do believe that seeing other women in the engineering field is very important, right? Because it does get tough sometimes. Just to have that support system and someone that you can kind of bounce things off of is very important in progressing through your career or through education, whatever the case may be.
LTU's educational approach of hands-on learning, theory and practice, prepared Donna for the real world. The quality of the education at Lawrence Tech has always been second to none.
The professors were all practitioners, right? So they had come from different walks of life, different businesses, different markets, and they were able to bring that practical knowledge into the classroom. And I thought that was the thing that was really important for me, knowing that my instructor is actually doing some of the things that he's teaching us about and can tell us about those experiences.
Today, more than 2,600 LTU alumni are employed or retired from Ford Motor Company, and the linking between Lawrence Tech and Ford continues to grow.
We have a team of people that come together one time a year. We bring product to the campus and we interface with the students. They get a chance to interface with our vehicles, so all of our cool cars, Mustang we had on campus, the Fusion, just take a look at the technology. We had the Ford Sync system there one year, so they can interface with that. They can think about coming to Ford Motor Company for all the good things that we have going on. And from design, right? Design of the vehicles, design of the interiors and the exteriors, chassis, tires, all the pieces that go together to create this awesome product that rolls off the line.
The impact Lawrence Tech grads have made at Ford is staggering. Let's start in the 60s. Bill Innes developed the GT40 powertrain that helped Ford win the 24-hour road race Le Mans, finally unseating Ferrari from its perch. And they won the race for the next 3 years. While the gas shortages in the 70s forced the American family to scrap their gas guzzlers, now Executive Vice President Innes was nicknamed Mr. Clean for his new fuel-efficient cars. LTU alum Charles Knighton developed the Ford Escort. Lawrence Tech grad Louis Veraldi was known as the father of the Ford Taurus. In 1986, the Taurus was the country's #1 selling vehicle. In fact, during the 80s, all new car development at Ford was designed by LTU alumni. LTU's industrial and transportation design programs springboard alum to impactful auto careers. 2014 grad Lindsey Grant played a key role in designing the new Lincoln Continentals. Transportation grad Colin Bonifin went from learning in the classroom to historic work at Ford soon after graduation. His assignment? To help design a 50th anniversary GT, inspired from the same car Bill Innes worked on in the 60s. And Back to the Future fans recognize the famous DeLorean used as the time machine. Its creator, John DeLorean, graduated from Lawrence Tech in 1948. He was also credited with creating the first muscle car while at General Motors, the Pontiac GTO.
Lawrence Tech students do not need a lot of hand-holding. They know what they need to do, and they do it well.
And while Lawrence Tech started as just an engineering school, today the university offers a wide variety of degree programs across 4 colleges. So, what if what you initially thought was the right path for you really isn't? This is where being a small school really has its advantages. Garrett Vonk and Max Sabo are second-year students. Both enrolled in one major, but soon after switched gears. Max has always had a love of technology. He thought computer engineering would be a great fit. He knew right away he made a mistake.
And I knew like 100% for sure it's not what I want to do. I went into my engineering class on Friday, and I told my professor, everyone's signing up for this stuff, everything's happening so quick, and I just told her, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life, what do I do?
After looking at his options, Max decided on the College of Management, and he knew immediately this was the right choice.
They welcomed me in, and I sat down with an advisor, and she walked me through the process of what kind of classes am I going to be taking, and sort of just what I need to switch into, like the transfer process, because I had absolutely no idea. I remember walking out of the office, and I've never sort of felt so, I guess, comfortable or just knowing that I had to be there, and I knew that I had made the right decision.
Max also chose to live on campus. Although he grew up in nearby Washington Township, it's still 45 minutes away from Southfield. If you're a full-time student and your commute is longer than 30 minutes, you should live on campus. For the longest time, Lawrence Tech was merely thought of as a commuter school. Housing wasn't even offered until the late 70s, when the University South Dormitory opened up in '77 with a capacity for 400. Stayed that way until 2002, when the University North Housing Unit, now called Donley Hall, opened up. This $12 million, 89,000 square foot resident featured apartment-style units for an additional 232 students. After 2010, and with a ton of athletes now roaming the campus, more housing was needed. In 2015, Royce Residence Hall opened up exclusively for first-year students. More of a traditional community-style building, its design was to help in easing the transition to college.
I personally love it. I like newer buildings, and so that just perfectly fit for me. And I think you're a freshman. If you're a freshman, you need to go to Royce. It's a perfect environment. You never know who you'll meet, and so living on campus gives you a really strong network of people to connect with.
Like Garrett Vonk. Born and raised on the west side of Michigan, LTU wasn't exactly top of mind. Garrett thought about what was going to be important to him in deciding on a university. Lawrence Technological University checked all the boxes.
It took me kind of a little bit of looking around to realize I wanted a small school. And it also took me a little while to figure out I wanted a private university and something that focused on technology, because whether or not I was in technology, I wanted something that had that strength because that was something that I was confident with. I wanted something that was not close to home because I didn't want to have to deal with my parents all the time, but I wanted something that was far enough, still close enough where it wasn't like too far away. And so as I started to find those things out, I was able to then hone in on Lawrence Tech.
Didn't take long to make his decision.
I'd been to a lot of universities where you go there and it seems like you're almost lost. Like, oh, go to this center, now cross the campus to this center, and then go to this building and go find this classroom and sit through this lecture with somebody who's in training for a certain class. And it was just all these things that didn't seem like you mattered and you were just a number. And I always felt like I was a higher priority and I prioritized myself, and that somebody should care about that, because if I'm going to put the work in, I want somebody to see that. And so when I came to LTU, especially having a small class size, I felt like the faculty actually wanted to help me if I was willing to put the work in. And so that was just something that really, really stood out.
Like Max, Garrett wanted to switch his major soon after school began. He'd struck up a friendship with Max, who told him how perfect he thought the College of Management would be for him too. A big help was that each student gets a faculty mentor.
That mentor helps you choose which classes you're going to take, what path you're going to go on. Tries to help you get paired up with internships. What's really nice here at LTU is they have flow charts you can follow. And so with your major, you can kind of have a plan set in stone when you choose it. That's, if you follow that plan, you won't fail, you'll get your degree, which is very nice.
I love how personable everybody is, not only the community, but with your professors as well. Like, I just talked with a professor on LinkedIn today that I had 2 semesters ago, and it's just really cool because they really get to know you and you get to know them. And I feel like when there's a connection between you and your professor, you learn a lot better versus sitting in a lecture room with 400 people.
Professor Scott Shaw is a perfect example. Currently the interim associate dean and professor of the College of Architecture and Design at Lawrence Tech, Professor Shaw is always available to mentor students. And it's his belief in art, all art, that allows him to see potential in anyone.
So I'll get a student and they'll come to me and say, I want to be an architect. And so they bring a bunch of drawings that they've executed in an AutoCAD or another computer-based drafting program. And while those are great skill sets, I'm just as interested to see a student who understands how to frame the human experience through the lens of a camera, because that's just as applicable. Or someone that's able to pick up a brush and with painterly precision, right, talk to the human experience in a very powerful way. Each of those things is equally valid.
Scott created the International Design Clinic, which is a platform for students and young professionals to travel to India, Romania, Bolivia, New Orleans, and execute socially responsive work. And Lawrence Tech is also back on Woodward Avenue in Detroit. It's a satellite campus for architecture and design students called the Detroit Center of Design and Technology. This relatively new hub brings professors and associates who are working in various parts of Metro Detroit together. The city of Detroit is calling out for new solutions, and young people want to answer. They want to be here.
Detroit is asking questions of us that we must engage. And so we had more and more students that also wanted to be a part of this thing. And so this became a home for them as well, where we could house classes, where we could start an incubator program so that students who have interesting ideas about how they might practice art or design or architecture, they might receive a little support, and so they can build new businesses, they can build new approaches, the kind of stuff that I think the city is asking for. The situation we're in right now in Detroit is ripe with possibility. It's an exciting time to be here, certainly. And for a student considering where they might pursue a degree in art, design, or architecture, it is a fantastic setting.
And we go back again to the immense advantages of theory and practice. A big part of your education at the College of Architecture and Design at Lawrence Tech, labs are no longer limited to just the studio.
Instead of offering straight-laced lectures where a student would sit in a room and a professor would either orate or stand in front of a PowerPoint and do so, we have taken that and created more active learning opportunities for students, opportunities to experiment, opportunities to get knee-deep into concrete. And that's led to, I think, a much more effective learning environment.
There has never been a better time in the history of Lawrence Technological University than to be a student right now. The new $16.9 million Taubman complex is home to the Marburger STEM Center. This nearly 40,000 square foot 3-story structure links the existing science and engineering buildings. Facilities include robotics and biomedical laboratories, in addition to modular spaces designed to accommodate the unanticipated needs of technological education in the future. Who knows what wave technology will take next? Lawrence Technological University is betting one of their grads will lead the way. Just ask someone who knows a thing or two about technology. Steve Ballmer is currently ranked the 22nd wealthiest person in the world. He passionately owns the NBA's Los Angeles Clippers and has a net worth of $27 billion. As one of the first 30 employees ever hired at Microsoft in the early 80s, he became the chief executive officer in 2000. And during his 14-year tenure, Microsoft's revenue grew from $25 billion to $70 billion, making them one of the largest companies in the world. Ballmer grew up in Detroit and attended Country Day. Very interested in math and science, he took classes at Lawrence Technological University while still in high school. Stephen Ballmer credits Lawrence Tech for planting the seeds of his future success. Ballmer came back to LTU to receive an honorary degree in 2013. Not even the sky is the limit with regards to the future of Lawrence Technological University.
I think it's going places. And I say that because the sports and the campus life is really picking up.
From a small building on Woodward Avenue to a huge, highly recommended, highly successful, accredited campus that it is today. And it's just unlimited. I think Alumni Board and the trustees are doing a great job. And I think they'll carry that on. There's just no end to this little story. It's got an up arrow on it. And I'm really proud to be a part of all of that.
For a small school, I think they're doing an extremely good job of making sure that everyone knows, like, we're on the same page, like, we're here to get things done. And with that kind of mindset, there's nothing really you can't accomplish.
You'll get a better education. You'll have that one-on-one experience. You'll see the president of the university come to your classroom and talk to you, ask you questions, be excited about the fact that you're there.
I'm very proud to be here, and I think students who come here are very fortunate, as we are to have them, that they are coming to an institution that is embedded in a great history and legacy and excellence, and that our students are wanted anywhere in this area and elsewhere. In fact, one of the complaints we have heard about Lawrence Tech is we don't have enough graduates, we need more of them. The demand is higher than we can meet, and hope we are moving in that direction.
If you believe that everything is possible and possible is everything, Lawrence Technological University could be a perfect match for you. If you think small class sizes, 74% with 20 students or fewer on average, means you will receive an education more personal and meaningful than traditional universities, visit ltu.edu. If you have dreams of playing competitive college athletics, check out ltuathletics.com. Plan to attend an upcoming Blue and White Day. This 2-hour immersive experience will have you speak with a counselor, take part in a student panel, get a walking tour of the campus, and have lunch with faculty members. For questions or more information, please contact the admissions office at 248-204-3160. You may also send an email to admissions@ltu.edu.